just so everyone knows. And welcome everyone. Today we will be doing the second part of our diversity training for mission impact and inclusion. Our agenda is we'll do our welcome and purpose, diversity and disaster. We'll go over cultural competency as a bridge to equity, removing barriers to equitable service delivery, and then we'll finalize with some commitment to action and our final thoughts. So, in this section, we are going to focus on how cultural competency helps us to advance in every part of disaster response. As the American Red Cross, our mission is built on pillars of dignity, access, and consistency. Cultural competency isn't just an add on, it's one of the ways we make those values show up in real life, especially during crisis. We also know that diversity shapes disaster experiences. People don't experience emergencies the same way. Factors like language, cultural norms, income levels, and trust in institutions always influence how quickly and comfortably someone can receive help during a disaster. And when we adapt our approach with cultural understanding, we build trust, and trust is what leads to equitable outcomes, especially in diverse communities. So let's start with a quick engagement question. I would like everyone to drop in the chat and name a community in Michigan that may experience unique challenges during disasters. Who are we serving? Who are we interacting with? And really try to make this specific to the region that you are in the chapter that you're serving with. Yes, Tuesday, Detroit. Flint. Thank you, Caitlin, for sharing. Yes, Lori, Detroit and Flint, Grand Rapids.
Sorry, Alexis, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I'm just asking everyone to think of what are the communities that we are serving that may be experiencing a disaster a little bit differently. An example for me working in the Southeast chapter, the community that I instantly think of is our Southwest community, which is compromised more of our Latin community, Latinx community. When it was time to reach out to them in a disaster, it takes cultural competency. So I'm just trying to figure out what communities that we all are serving that are diverse and different and that may face some type of challenge that we can identify during disaster. Thank you, Ricky. The LGBTQ community in West Michigan and religious trauma and not wanting to go to churches as a disaster response site. That is something that definitely comes up when seeking help, where they're going, what type of business or institution that we may be setting help up in. And yes, a newcomer community like immigrants and refugees. Thank you so much. And some areas in Kalamazoo. So yeah, thank you all for sharing. Just someone who's in the Southeast chapter, it's always good to hear about the different diverse communities that we see ourselves assisting with in our local chapters. Thank you. So now I want to talk about some of the barriers that come up, the diversity and disaster. So first, language. If alerts and signage or instructions are only in English, families may struggle to understand what's happening or what the next steps are. A concern is limited understanding of alerts and instructions. A solution that we may use is sharing our information in multiple languages and provide interpretation services at sites and ensure signage and forms reflect the community's direct needs. Then we have cultural norms and trust. Different cultures have different comfort levels with approaching organizations, especially in high stress situations. For example, like mentioned in the Southwest community, families who fear documentation concerns may avoid assistance when they are in desperate need during these stressful situations. So we can bridge that gap by working with cultural leaders, using inclusive language, and showing up and understanding the difference in the cultural norms. When you're working with cultural leaders, you're able to bridge that gap and ask that community member what it is that they need in the disaster instead of just offering a blank support or service. Then we move into socioeconomic and access challenges. Low-income families often face a lack of transportation, unstable housing, or difficulty completing documents. We can help by simplifying forms. We can partner with other community organizations and designing shelters that meet their varied cultural and accessibility needs. This is a vulnerable population, and remember that these people are in need of help but may not be able to access help. They may need help with understanding documents, so making sure that we're making them simple and readable for our community that we're serving. And then finally, vulnerable populations. These members are members with disabilities and older adults that need extra support. A shelter that isn't accessible creates an equity gap. So a solution is ensuring our shelters are designed for accessibility, applying policies that consistently promote those fairness and those equitable service deliveries. All right, so in the chat, you can drop your answer. We're going to do a quick knowledge check. Which of the following is an example of a language barrier during disaster? Is it A, families fear engaging due to documentation concerns? B, English only signage shows or blocks access? C, lack of transportation prevents shelter access, or D, cultural norms limit help and seeking behavior or seeking assistance. All right, yes, we see B. B is the correct answer. So an example of language barrier during disaster would be English only signage that slows and blocks access to into our community getting the help that they need. All right, second question. Which issue is most likely faced by low-income families during disasters? Is it A, limited understanding of alerts, B, lack of transportation or safe housing, C, cultural differences in communication, or D, fear of policy inconsistency? All right, I see the answers coming in. B, yes, thank you. Yes, the correct answer is B. Families faced by low income during disaster or some that are in low income areas, these families are more than likely going to be faced with the issue of lack of transportation or safe housing. So that is B. All right, let's talk about cultural competency as a bridge to equity. First, I just want to say cultural competency helps us deliver services with equity at the center. That is the importance of cultural competency. Adapting services to honor cultural practices, we want to tailor support in ways that respects culture and religious needs. That can include dietary considerations, honoring prayer times, and it should include partnering with cultural leaders to have a full understanding of the big picture. Um, Another cultural competency that we can use is strengthening rapport through culturally aware communication. Communication is more than words. It means using inclusive language, avoiding assumptions, being mindful of nonverbal cues, and offering interpretation services whenever needed. Just making sure we have an understanding of how to communicate appropriately with the community that we're delivering service to. And then the last cultural competency that we can use is delivering support that builds fairness and trust. Consistency is key. And when we apply policies fairly, explain resources and their limits clearly, and invite feedback, we create a space where all communities feel safe and respected, and as if it is a collaborative effort instead of just a service delivery that is not tailored to that community's needs. So let's do one more knowledge check. Which of the following is not an example of adapting services to honor cultural practices? Is it A, providing meals that align with dietary restrictions? Is it B, scheduling assistance during major religious observations? Is it C, ignoring cultural leaders to avoid favoritism? Or is it D, using interpretation services for a non-English speaking individual? All right, I'm seeing some C's, I'm seeing B. And the correct answer is C. Um, Ignoring cultural leaders to avoid favoritism is not an example of adapting services to honor our cultural practices. So we don't want to worry about favoritism. We want to make sure that we're partnering with those with those cultural leaders and being collaborative with them. Next question, you are coordinating a shelter services after a flood. A family requests a private space for prayer, but the shelter is crowded. What is the best approach? A, explain that the space is limited and deny the request. B, offer a quiet corner and communicate respectfully about the limitations. C, tell them to pray outside the shelter. Or D, ask them to wait until the shelter empties. All right, yes, I am seeing a lot of B's. Okay, so the best approach would be to offer a quiet corner and communicate respectfully about those limitations, making sure that we're honoring those cultural practices and making space. If it has to be a closet, if it has to be a space in the kitchen, anywhere to just honor their culture and their need for service while they're in this difficult situation. So thank you guys very much for participating. I am going to pass it over to my wonderful colleague, Caitlin.
Hi, everyone. So, when we're talking about equitable service delivery, we're going to discuss some of the things that we're already doing within the Red Cross that really help support this. Equity balances respect with realism. So we honor the needs while being transparent, and we are focusing on these service deliveries to each community that we're serving because we understand that everyone is different. So, the first one is needs-based service delivery. So services are being tailored to individual and community needs. We're looking at what is the response that needs to be made and how are we going to do that to support this community in the best possible way. With that, as we are a volunteer-led organization, our volunteer positions aren't one size fits all either. We look at how many hours are they looking to support? What kind of position would be best for their time schedule? How can they support and use their skills from a previous job or volunteer experience so they can help our communities? Development educational programs provided to staff and volunteers to gain knowledge based on needs, just like this one, right? We're all looking to learn how can we bridge this gap. And so we're offering this in different ways through recordings, through a visual aid, through talking, all of this stuff. So we're meeting different people where they are. The next one is language access. So translation and interpretation services are available. This is a huge step that we have been doing with the Red Cross on OneSource. as of, I think it's been about a year now, we have a ton of different language materials on there that promotes either volunteer recruitment, disaster preparedness programs. These materials are being translated from English, and then we now have the Spanish option. So that's huge of meeting different folks where they are. And also the use of bilingual volunteers to help us with translation needs. The next one is accessibility and disability considerations. So our shelters and services are designed to be accessible for these, for the communities that we're serving. The staff and volunteers are trained, very detailed to support individuals with any type of needs they may have that are in a respectful and efficient way. With our blood drives, those are accessible to all those who are healthy to donate. You know, there are some medical restrictions with blood donations, but our blood drives are accessible to those who are able to donate in a healthy way. With that, our inclusive health and biomedical services initiative. So, we have a large focus on reaching underrepresented communities and addresses conditions like sickle cell disease, which is great. And a lot of our outreach is super educational and is tailored to increase trust for our donor participation. All of these are just examples of things that we are currently doing and that we all get to play a part in to ensure that these remain to be equitable and we don't forget anyone or any community that we're serving. So let's check in, shall we? The first question is, which of the following best describes language access and equitable service delivery? A, services tailored to individual and community needs. B, shelters and services designed to be accessible. C, translation and interpretation services are available. Or D, focus on reaching underrepresented communities.
So we're seeing C in the chat. Yes, so far it's C.
Beautiful. Thank you, Alexis. I
Right.
can't see the chat, everyone, so Alexis is helping me out.
Yes, everyone is saying C.
Perfect. The correct answer is C. So having those translation and interpretation services available is a great way for us to deliver equitable service, because there might be someone with being hearing impaired and maybe they need sign language. Maybe they are a monolingual volunteer that only speaks Spanish. So we have those translation opportunities. The next question is, what is a key consideration under accessibility and disability in disaster services? A, shelters and services are designed to be accessible. B, volunteer positions are one size fits all. C, materials are translated into multiple languages. Or D, educational outreach tailored to increase donor trust.
B, A. Okay. Yep, we have a lot of A's rolling in.
Amazing. Yes, A is the correct answer. So shelters and services being designed to be accessible, that's a huge thing for us when we are setting up our shelters, that we want to make sure that the people that are coming to stay with us in these feel comfortable and are able to do so. So to wrap us up, how can we actually put this into action and how can we bridge the gap? So equitable service delivery doesn't start with just policy change. It starts with all of us really taking action. So everyone on this call, you know, making that first step to take initiative to become more educated on it like we are today. That's a huge part in it because we all play a role. And equity doesn't mean having all the answers, right? It just means that we are willing to pause and ask and adapt to what is needed when we're supporting our mission and supporting the communities that we serve. The next one is our own personal commitment. So I'm going to ask you all to put in the chat what you all could do the next time you're working a shift or have an interaction. Maybe you're on a deployment at a blood drive, whatever it may be. what will you commit to? So examples of this could be, I will pause and ask questions instead of assuming I know the client's needs. Um, Maybe it's, I will use person first respectful language, even in high pressure moments. So maybe that stopping and saying, how can I help you? You know, there's a big group of people on one side of a shelter, but then there's this one that looks a little lost. Pausing and saying, how can I help you personally makes a huge difference. Or maybe it could or maybe your commitment could be, I will seek guidance if I'm unsure and use the opportunity to learn how I can be inclusive, because educating yourself is a huge first step as well. So what will you do as a personal contribution to bridge the gap? I know for me, I can start by saying an example as answers are coming in. I always try and take the time to pause and educate myself on the situation because everything is so different. I know maybe I'm going to volunteer in a shelter and I think I know, or I know what the response is for, but I don't know what I'm walking into. So pausing and educating myself is a huge one that I try to do. Alexis, I was
All
able to
right.
pull this up, so I'll,
You got it.
yes, thank you. Jesus said, observe and listen and reach out for guidance. That's awesome. Use open-ended communication to promote cultural competent communication to ensure I can meet the current need that needs to be addressed. I love that, Tuesday. Thank you. Becky said, I love person first in high pressure moments. The pause is so important. Yes, I agree. Mark said, I will pause and learn rather than acting quickly. That's huge. That's awesome. And Lori said, take a moment to assess the situation before acting. Absolutely. Linda said, look and see where the greatest needs are and how best to assist. That's great, everyone. Thank you so much for saying how you can help be this commitment to action as we're trying to bridge the gap and provide equitable service delivery. That's all we have for you all today. So thank you for joining session 2. At the beginning, Alexa started our recording, so we will put that up on our Volunteer Connection site. This is a new thing for us, so you might not know about it yet. On Volunteer Connection, on your homepage, if you go under My Region, there is a mission impact and inclusion site. You can click that and you'll be able to watch all of the recordings in case you missed something or want to rewatch it or share it with your teams. But as always, you're more than welcome to connect with us at any time. We have Natalie's email on this slide, but Alexis and I are open as well. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
afternoon.